Tonight on our Great American Panel, he's a nationally syndicated talk show host on the Salem Radio Network and partner at the law firm Hewitt-Walensky. Hugh Hewitt is here. She's a former advisor to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and former communications director for Governor Ed Rendell. Penny Lee joins us. And he's a popular speaker and the best-selling author whose new book is Rechurch, Healing Your Way Back to the People of God. Stephen Mansfield also joins us. Thanks, everyone, for being here. So, Hugh, let me start with you. We have this new CBS poll out today, shows President Obama's job approval at its lowest ever in that poll, 44%. Shows his approval on health care, the lowest ever in that poll, 34%. So what happened to the theory that passing a sprawling, budget-busting, unpopular health care bill was just going to be the thing to restore Obama to health?
You know, what you were mentioning with Jim Garrity is these numbers roll out, $1 billion at AT&T, $100 million at Deere. These are stunning to the American people, but I think it's really not the specifics, though they're awful. I think that it's President Obama ran as a post-partisan or a bipartisan candidate, and he's disappointed a lot of people because it was the most partisan exercise of raw politics that we've seen at the national level, probably going back to LBJ. And the distance between expectation and the way that he acted, and the way that he's acting now, the speech in Portland, Maine yesterday, one of the most ungracious moments for a president in my memory, goes back at least 5 or 6 presidents. I think he's doing himself enormous damage, and it can go much lower than 44%.
Now, LBJ was a tough tactician, there's no doubt about that, but he also got bipartisan majorities for these major pieces of legislation.
On the civil rights legislation he did, on some of the others he did not. And so I'm talking about when he just got the Democrats together and banged their heads, and to heck with the Republicans. I don't recall anything this partisan.
So, Penny, if he's in the mid-40s nationally in that poll, if you look at the numbers in the swing states and the swing districts, they have to be even scarier for Democrats. There was a Mason-Dixon poll in Florida, had Obama at 37% approval, had 65%, I believe, of seniors opposing the health care bill. Don't Democrats look at numbers like that and scream?
I mean, and you had Washington Post had him at 53%. Look, all politicians know that the polls that matter are those that are in November, and that's what we're going to see, and that is a lifetime from there. So, you know, I think one of the more determinants of what is going to happen is we've got to watch these job numbers, and that's why what was announced today was so important, because we're seeing the trend lines change, and we're beginning to see job growth occur once again. Is it enough? No. Do we need to do more? Absolutely. But I think the thing that is going to be more determinative than this poll that was here today is what those job numbers are going to be like.
But I think Democrats are really fooling themselves if they think this health care vote is going to go away. This is a really big deal, and people are going to have long memories.
And you're going to be one of those that reminds them every single day.
Absolutely.
And I think the president and I think the administration has the onus on them is to explain to the American public every day what it is that this bill does to them. It means that you no longer get denied when you have a pre-existing condition.
No,
and
it doesn't
no longer.
It doesn't mean that until 2014.
My father, who is on Medicare, is not going to have the problems with the Medicare donut hole. So there are some good things about this bill
come in immediately.
That will
this is where the cynicism comes in. President Obama represented those things, closing the donut hole, ending the exclusion on people with pre-existing conditions, as if they're happening immediately. They're not happening until 2014. So the good things.
Small businesses is going to get their immediate tax credits. And that's going to actually be retroactively.
He never told us they were going to have huge write-downs from corporate America of billions of dollars.
Well, I think the American people get lost in these details. I think one of the things, and I agree with Hugh, of course, on the issue that he's moved from his statesman-like tone in the campaign and become kind of a Chicago bare-knuckles brawler, you know. But why does he keep stepping down from the bully pulpit? Why engage Rush Limbaugh directly? He's the president of the United States. Why go after Glenn Beck? Why get into a police situation in Boston? He doesn't seem to know how to wield power at a statesman-like presidential level, and I think the people feel that he's not at that elevated station. He keeps on stepping down into the brawl, and I think that accounts for some of his loss of numbers.
Well, he knows how to wield power. You know, we saw that getting the health care bill through. But he's obviously really bothered by pundits. And if you're the president of the United States, with all due respect to all of us who are hugely important people, you just shouldn't be that bothered by whatever we're saying on TV.
You don't want to picture your president sitting in the Oval Office or sitting in the West Wing, you know, somehow reading the blogs and worrying about his press and, oh, I'm going to get that Rush Limbaugh tomorrow. And that's kind of the image, that he's not this grand figure that at least was presented to us in the campaign. Right. Now he's going after his enemies in kind of an Nixonian LBJ way that no American likes.
Let's talk about Nixonian, because Hugh, what I think has gone on with the Tea Partiers has been outrageous. There was an incident right before the vote where African-American lawmakers walked into the Capitol and alleged that they were spit upon deliberately and that they are called the N-word. Now, with a little more reflection, it turns out there is no documented evidence of this whatsoever. Do you believe it happened?
No, I don't. I think Andrew Breitbart's piece at Big Government puts out a very interesting proposition that there's a concerted effort underway right now to tempt the Tea Party into a defining negative moment, and that having not delivered on that, because most of the Tea Party people are good, wonderful, patriotic Americans who are concerned about this country after GM, after the stimulus, after the seizure of the student loans, the disaster that is Obamacare. They're concerned about the country, but they're good, normal, ordinary people, and they're not going to be tempted into this. But Andrew posits that incidents like this are being staged to try and draw them in.
But doesn't every media organization that reported this have the obligation to go back and do the due diligence and let us know whether it actually happened or not?
Well, the New York Times should be going back and retracting their stories on Benedict, but they never do, they never will, and that's because they are who they are, and that's why
Penny, really quickly, I have about 30 seconds left. Why can't the liberals just admit Tea Partiers, they're patriots who happen to disagree with us? Why do they have to call them racist and all the other names?
Because you are seeing that the vitriol be increased at a very high level, and you're seeing a lack of civility. You saw it on the House of the floor whenever you had Stupak standing there with a speech and being called a baby killer on the House of the floor. So civility is something that needs to be returned. So
does not tell us anything about the nature of one movement.
We're not reporting it or changing it. We're just simply showing them, and there is a high vitriol right now.
Okay, well, if you're making stuff up, though, if this incident really didn't happen, you're not exposing them, you're smearing them.
Absolutely. If it really didn't happen, it needs to be exposed.
Right. More in a second. More with our great American panel right after the break. Stick with us.